getting help in the home or planning for the future. Our team has a singular focus on ensuring that our clients get the right level of care at the right time and in the right place.
So, thank you, and thank you to Hartford Healthcare for bringing us together today. And last but certainly not least, Kent.
I'm Kent Schwendy. I'm the president CEO of CIL, which is a nonprofit development company that does a wide range of different types of development, but our specialty really is in housing, and in particular housing for people with disabilities or aging. So this is a perfect discussion for us to have, and something we've been doing for over 40 years.
Great, thank you so much. So we've organized the discussion today into 3 areas regarding the services and resources for aging at home: the area of prevention, the area of services that are available, and the discussion of funding and how to get some of these things funded. And we're going to look at 3 aspects of each of those areas. We're going to talk about it in terms of services, in terms of the physical plant or environment, and in terms of technology and what's available in terms of technology to assist people. And to start us off with talking about prevention and some of the preventative steps people can take, Marc, why don't you kick us off?
Great, thank you. So one of the most important factors to allow individuals to safely age in place, to stay in their home, is to maintain their physical health. And really importantly, to avoid falls, because falls can be devastating and really have a negative effect on our plans to stay in our homes on a long-term basis. Many falls are preventable. So let's review just a few safety tips to minimize a chance of falling. So first, I'm going to encourage you to exercise. You want to engage in a regular exercise, or if you don't like that word exercise, activity program. So you really want to look to build on your balance, your strength, your flexibility. And if you're looking for some help in that regard, many of your local YMCAs are a really good resource for those types of programs. Okay. Secondly, I want to encourage you to wear appropriate footwear. So always wear proper fitting, slip resistant footwear, whether it be shoes or slippers. Next, I'm going to invite you to review your medication with your physician or at least your pharmacist. There are certainly medications out there that have potential side effects of dropping your blood pressure, making you dizzy, modify your vision, that really could put you at increased risk for falling. So review those medications, make sure all your providers know what you're on. I'm going to invite you to also get your vision and hearing checked, because really your eyes and your ears are really some of the key aspects of keeping you upright on your feet. Certainly going to invite you to be proactive versus reactive. Lots of times people turn to me after a fall, but if you're at risk for a fall or have history for falls, you may want to ask your physician about a balance and fall prevention program through Hartford Healthcare. Our program is called Safe Steps, which is a very focused physical therapy program to look at some of the potential deficits that may put you at greater risk for a fall. And that could be an issue with your vision, with your inner ear, vestibular, with muscular strength, or inflexibility. So they really look to address those particular issues in a very focused manner. And those programs are typically covered by most insurance programs. And then lastly, I'm going to suggest that you get a personal emergency response system. Though it's not a fall prevention strategy, having one of those personal emergency response buttons like Lifeline, those I've fallen and I can't get up buttons, will ensure quick medical response if you do happen to fall, and also give peace of mind to your loved ones. So again, just a few quick tips on minimizing the chance of falls. So Kent, can I invite you now to maybe share some home safety modification options to help improve the safety and accessibility for our clients?
Sure, and I think I'll focus on 2. And the reason I picked these is that they're things that sometimes come up as part of other projects. So, just like Mark was saying, you're going to try to avoid having a fall, while you're also going to try to avoid having other problems. But at some point, we all age and we all have more difficulty, or we know someone who does, who's trying to visit our home. So there are a few things that you can do, and it would be nice if we just said, well, we're going to make our homes fully accessible right from day one. If you're building a new home, you can actually do that, and I'll talk a little more about that later. But if you're living in, an existing home, if you have to make modifications, there are things you can do to kind of proof it for the future. So one of those is, let's say that you're changing flooring, you need to replace a carpet. Well, in a lot of homes, especially in older homes, but even the new homes, you'll see it, the floors will be uneven. You'll have thresholds where they don't line up. And the reason for that is that the house is built with floors at one level, a subfloor, and then the carpet is one thickness and wood flooring is another thickness and vinyl flooring is another thickness. And so you end up with all these little changes as you go from room to room. Those end up being tripping hazards. They can also be a problem if you end up, in a wheelchair, or if you're trying to, walk through in a walker, having to be able to lift up over there. So one of the things you can do is, if you're having a room redone anyway, the carpet's worn out and you're going to put it in, well, have it leveled with the adjacent floor. It costs almost nothing as an additional at that time. If you're already going to be paying for a new carpet or new floor surface of some type, all they end up doing is putting in kind of a spacer underneath it to bring it up to the level of, say, a wood floor next to it, or making a more smooth transition between the two. So those are the kinds of things you can do. Kind of the next step up is, let's say you're doing some further modifications to your home for other reasons. Think about sizes of doorways. If you can build your doorways at 36 inches, it doesn't really cost you any more than any other narrower door, but it will allow someone in a wheelchair, for example, or someone in a walker to more easily go through that doorway. So, I'm not suggesting that you just go through and rebuild all your doorways, but if you happen to be doing another project, or if you have water damage in your bathroom and you have to redo something, that's a good time to think about these modifications. It's always good to plan ahead. You can always do it later, but it's going to cost you more to do it when you need it than beforehand.
Great, thanks. So Nicole, from the technology perspective, what kinds of preventive kinds of things can happen, or what should people be thinking about?
It's a great question, and it comes up quite a bit because technology is, it's such an important and crucial part of everyone's life, I think, at this point. And the pandemic has certainly kind of thrust us into this world of digital technology and how it's used. And we're seeing the population really increase through all ages and their access to technology. So really trying to take into consideration when you're talking about prevention or kind of getting ahead of the technology game is really considering how you can take those home modifications or those low tech supports that you're putting into place in your home and then elevate them with the use of technology. It doesn't, I think a lot of people think it's one or the other. There's also this assumption that, people who are aging in place, don't want technology in their house. I think that is, it's not true. For a lot of conversations we're having, there's just questions on like, how does this apply to me? I've never used anything like this before. How can I be safe using it? What can it do for me? And so it's really thinking about what your needs are right now for the technology. If you want to, especially during the pandemic, there was this social isolation piece where people couldn't get to see loved ones, or they were, visiting through glass windows. And so there's a way to use the technology to help you stay socially connected, to have telehealth services, and to participate in life, from inside your home in a protected place. So it's really considering the use of technology to elevate the other kinds of things that you're doing in your home and allowing you to connect with the people around you. It's thinking about what your needs are now for the technology and what it will do in the future. And so every piece of technology that you bring into your home, whether it's an Amazon Echo or a Google Home or a Facebook portal, these things then might turn into engaging the rest of your home with, voice activated lighting or door alerts, window alerts, or alarms. And so it's how do all of these pieces of technology play together? Because as you bring in one piece of technology, they may not all play nicely in the sandbox. And so it's really about bringing someone in who might be knowledgeable to help you kind of explore what your needs are now for the technology and what you might want to prepare for in the future. So it's that plan A and the plan B.
So great. And I imagine that, one of the things that people can do now is to make sure you have a strong enough internet and Wi-Fi system in your house to support some of those things in the future, or at least have a plan that will allow you to increase that, or means to increase that, because some of them are reliant.
Absolutely, Tracey. And if people are not ready to bring the technology into their home, I think the most important part is to start talking about it, or reading about it, or learning a little bit more, because in the future you may need something or want something. So it's just about gathering information and surrounding yourself with people who can help you figure some of those solutions out.
Right. So just like the ways in which you can be prepared and be doing some preventative things are going to differ for everyone, because everyone is different, everyone's homes are different, everyone's needs are different. The same is true of services, and there's quite a bit available that we want to make you aware of. So Marc, you want to start talking a little bit about the types of healthcare and home care services that are available?
Yeah, absolutely. So for getting additional help or support in the home, there's your skilled care and your non-skilled care. So first, skilled care, some people also refer to it as certified care. Now this is your nursing care, your physical, your occupational, and or speech therapy. So it's short-term, and I want to emphasize short-term care to address an acute deficit, not chronic, not a chronic problem, but an acute change that can be rehabable. You must be getting the services that's referred by a physician, a plan of care created by your physician, as well as reviewed regularly. Now this care is short-term in nature. It is generally covered by most health insurance companies, including your Medicare, your Medicare Advantage, and your Medicaid plans. Now, the other type of care that you could receive in the home is your non-skilled care, your companion, your homemaking services. Generally, and I'm saying generally because I do see a couple of the Medicare Advantage plans offering some coverage, but generally this is not covered by most health insurance plans, certainly not by Medicare right now. So you have your companion and homemaking services first. Your companion, someone's going to keep an eye on you, keep you company, play board games with you. Maybe the homemaker is going to do some cooking, some cleaning for you. You're probably looking at between $18 to $23 an hour for that level of care. Most agencies want a 3 to 4 hour minimum per visit. Then you have your home health services. Now this is for that hands-on care, the assistance with dressing, with bathing, with help in the bathroom. Here you're probably looking at about $25 to $30 per hour for that level of care.
Great. Nicole, so, how do people go about assessing what their needs might be, what kind of technology could help them, meet their needs?
It's a great question. And I think that the difficult part is that technology is everywhere now, and there's so many different players in the field in terms of tech companies who are trying to deliver various services. And so you certainly can take that on yourself and do a lot of reading or exploring if you like to just play with the technology. But New England Assistive Technology, or otherwise known as NEAT, has a team of professionals, assistive technology professionals, who can help process that information. Their sole job is to stay on top of what the kinds of technology that's trending out there and how it impacts individuals with disabilities and individuals who are aging, but also just people in general. And so, an assistive technology specialist can come out and help assess the home. This can be done virtually and it can be done in person. So whatever someone is comfortable with at this time, and moving forward, these will be services we're providing in a hybrid approach. But someone can come and assess the home, talk to you about what your interests are in technology and what your needs are, specifically what you're looking for the technology to be able to do for you. Whether it's some, maybe you're not as mobile as you used to be, and getting to the door quick enough is difficult. And so you want to be able to, see who's at the front door without having to get up from bed or your chair. Discussing what's critical for you medically, maybe. And then also talking about what you might need over time in terms of the technology support. By gathering all this information, specialists can then take your thoughts and your concerns and help feature match you with the technology that will best serve your needs. And then provide you with some recommendations and suggestions moving forward. We can also talk to you about the privacy and safety factor. I think a lot of individuals are concerned with bringing technology into their home and it not being secure within the Wi-Fi, people getting, your confidential information. And so we also can help coach people into how you protect your personal information in your home through the use of tech. We then can come back and even help install. So if you're not surrounded with people or a family who might be able to help you with the installation piece, there are some elements of installation we can help with. We can set up the Amazon Echo Show for you so that you can see your family outside your home. And we can teach you how to use it. I think that's the most important piece, is that bringing the tech into your home is not the hard part. It's learning how to use it and how it impacts your daily routine, and really how it can make your life more enjoyable and more connected.
What are other types of devices, technology that actually people use other than the Echo or those kinds of things? So just to give some examples.
Great example. So I'll give you a perfect example. We had an individual who had come home from the hospital and was really struggling to get out of bed, had to kind of spend some significant recovery time in bed. But his wife had to kind of go out and about. She had to go to get groceries. She had to do, go out to work. And so there was this element of leaving him at home without access to a lot of people. And so, he wanted to be able to open the blinds or close the blinds on his own. And so you can do that through voice activation. He wanted to be able to turn the television on or off by himself using his voice, not having to get up and find the remote control if his wife took it down the remote downstairs with him. There's ways to turn the heat up and down, or the air condition off, or change the level of coolness in the house. There are also ways to connect to cameras. So if you want to see what's going on outside your house, he actually was an actual avid bird watcher. And so the most important thing to him was to be able to view the birds in his backyard, but wasn't able to do that physically yet. So connecting a camera to his computer so that all he had to do was turn the computer on and see what was going on outside was the most important piece for him. So there's lots of different elements of technology that can really bring enjoyment to your life that you probably don't even know exists. It's really about talking to specialists about, what ideally you'd like in your world. The technology most likely exists.
Thanks. Kent, how about from the house or apartment itself perspective?
Well, I think it helps. Very, very similar to what Nicole said about having someone come in and assess what your needs, wants, and desires are, and then helping to prepare a plan. That's something that we can do, or that most architects can do, especially one that more familiar with some of the aging in place thought process. But it allows you to think through both what your current needs are and what your needs might be in the future, and then prioritize what you're going to change. So for example, if you have an injury and you suddenly can't go up and down stairs, then there's a few things you're going to need on the ground floor of your home. First of all, you need to be able to get in and out of the home. So that may require a modification of the entrance or a ramp. And then inside the home, you're going to need an accessible bathroom, and you may need a bedroom, because you may live in a home that all the bedrooms are upstairs, and you may have to figure out a way to retrofit that. And I'll give you two examples, both from my own family, so I can't get in trouble by letting anyone know about something I shouldn't. But so 25 years ago, when I moved to Connecticut, my wife and I had a house built, and obviously at the time, I'm older now, but at the time I was quite young and had young children, and I didn't want to have a first floor bedroom because I didn't want to take up the space. I wanted that space available for the family. So I worked with our builder. I'm actually a designer, so I was able to design it myself, but I worked with the builder to build what was a family room with a huge closet for games and storage of toys and that type of thing when the kids were young, which backed up against a half bath, which was a great convenient location for a playroom to have its own little half bathroom. But it was all designed in such a way that that closet could actually be converted into an accessible shower as part of the bathroom, and the playroom could be converted into a bedroom. So right now it's my office at home, but someday my wife and I will probably move from the master bedroom upstairs to downstairs, and we have it. So it's already pre-built and pre-planned, but that doesn't just happen. You have to plan ahead for it. Now, if you haven't planned ahead for it, you can still bring in an expert to help you figure things out. And I ended up doing that with my parents when, due to some health issues and a hip injury, they realized that they could no longer go up and down the stairs in their home, but there was no bedroom. But they did have a beautiful little kind of a four-season sunroom. It was a sunroom, but it actually did have heating and cooling, luckily. And we were able to retrofit some doorways and make a few minor modifications, did a slight little addition to add a closet to make it into a bedroom, and they moved into that room downstairs and are perfectly happy and don't need to go upstairs. But they wouldn't have been able to figure that out on their own because they just looked at it and said, well, it's a sunroom, we need a bedroom. But as a designer, we were able to look at it and say, well, we could add a closet by doing this. We could cut it off from the rest of the house by putting doors here and here, and it'll be a bedroom, and no one will ever know it wasn't a bedroom. And it worked out beautifully. So there are always ways, but sometimes you need to go find that expertise, and they just need to know what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Thanks. What a great example. And before we go into talking about funding and how to finance some of these things, I just want to make sure everyone knows that Samantha is going to be emailing out the contact information for Marc and Nicole and Kent afterwards to everyone who is registered, as well as this is being recorded, so it's going to be on YouTube, and she'll send that link as well for people. So if you want to follow up with any of them about your particular situation, you'll certainly be able to do that. So now, the question that's on everybody's mind, particularly after listening to what Kent had to say, how does some of this get financed? And I think, maybe Kent, I'll throw the ball right back to you right now.
Yeah, so there are really a number of different sources. Of course, obviously people, can pay for it themselves, but, most of us don't have money just laying around for this. If you're recovering from an injury or hospitalization or coming out of nursing home care, say you were, there for recovery purposes, there are several programs that you can apply for depending on whether or not you meet certain income eligibility. CIL is actually the administrators of several of those. One is a federal program. It's called the Money Follows the Person program. It allows people to do home modifications when they have a new physical disability and they're within 1 year of having left some type of formalized nursing home or recovery care. Then there's another program that's we also administer that's actually funded through the state. It's called Loans for Accessibility. Just a little bit of a misnomer because they're not actually loans, they're grants. But it's very similar to the Money Follows the Person program, except it doesn't require you to have been within a year of getting out of, say, a nursing home. And then finally, we also have, because we're a nonprofit development corporation, we take donations and we use those funds for projects for people who apply to us who don't meet the requirements of LFA or MFP, or to do additional things that may not be covered, like certain technology items. So those are the biggest programs that we see the most modifications. And those have limitations usually of about $50,000 per project, but for $50,000, you can do a lot to your home. You can build the ramp, you can add a accessible bathroom, you can sometimes even put a small addition on the house to add a bedroom downstairs. Sometimes it's also, being able to put in, a small chair lift, or a stair lift or something like that for accessibility. But there are a variety of things you can use the funds for. It goes back to what do you need?
Great, thanks. Marc, I know you mentioned earlier in passing that, Medicare typically doesn't pay for, much of the home, the home-based services, but could you talk about what some other resources might be, or some things that insurance might pay for?
Sure. So if we're talking about, we'll start off with just care. So again, Medicare or your Medicare Advantage plan will cover short-term certified care, and if referred to by a physician. And then if you're looking for that non-skilled care, depending if you're on Medicaid also known as Title 19. If you're a younger individual under 65 years old, then there's a program called the Community First Choice, or the PCA waiver program, which may be able to embed care in your home. For those over 65, there's also the Connecticut Home Care Program for Elders, which has a state-funded arm if you have less than $51,000 as a married couple in savings. There's also a Medicaid arm for that program, also again to embed care within your home. And then if you're a veteran or a widowed spouse of a veteran, there's a program called the Aide and Attendance Pension, which could reimburse a veteran or widowed spouse for out-of-pocket cost of care, which is a really nice funding source. And then through your area agency on aging, there could be respite care grants, or even through the Connecticut Alzheimer's Association if you happen to have a dementia.
Great. Nicole, what are people's options for paying for technology if they don't have the personal resources available to fund that?
So Marc and Ken actually gave a lot of great resources that can actually support some work with NEAT to technology doesn't have to be really expensive. This is a misnomer that, you have to go out and spend a lot of money to bring technology into your home. It can be done in small increments, in little ways. But I think the difficult part is if people they just go out and start buying technology and it doesn't work the way they think that it should, or they thought that it would help them. So bringing a specialist in might seem like a lot at first, but they can help guide you in the least expensive way and really help you make decisions that will save you money in the end. But technology is everywhere. I mean, you can really go into Home Depot or Bed Bath & Beyond and, purchase things for fairly decent prices, even with coupons sometimes, but it's understanding which technology you want to bring into your home that can help. We encourage people to call us because we do have sometimes we have grants or funding solutions that we can connect people to that will either help them with the smart home assessment or with the technology itself. We can be that connection for people that help them figure out where they might find funding for it. And the last thing too is that we have been doing a lot of work with the areas, the areas on agency of aging and the CILs to provide smart technology through something called the Stay Connected program. And so that's still very much going on. And for people who qualify as being socially isolated during the pandemic, that can be a solution from them. So we really just encourage people to reach out and ask, and we can help make those connections for them.
Great. And also I noticed that Samantha posted in the chat a link to the CIL website with some further information on some of the things that were being discussed. So at this point, I would like to open it up to questions from the audience. If you want to unmute yourself and ask any of our panelists a question, or you'd prefer to type it in the chat, something maybe they didn't talk about that you'd like to hear something about, but we'd be happy to entertain those right now. One question that I have, Nicole, and going back to working with the NEAT Center and paying for those assessments, what types of payment does the NEAT Center accept?
So we don't currently take insurance. We're working on some things like that, but some insurance won't cover like assistive technology evaluations at this time. However, we will, we do take cash or credit card, or if people say, I really want this service, I'm not sure how to pay for this, I don't have that kind of money, then we will help find funding solutions for them or connect them to potential grant opportunities and make sure that they can find and get access to what it is that they need, or work with them and say, well, we don't really think you need all of this. You might just need one smaller service. Or we're happy to make recommendations, some suggestions over the phone as a resource center too. We very much encourage people to just call and ask, and then we'll help guide the conversation as we see it needs. We're a nonprofit, so we're looking to support people and help get them the information that they need.
Right. And I'm going to ask Marc something. He's totally unprepared because the question just came to mind to me right now. But so often, couples have aged together. I know in our work, often an elderly child is living with an elderly parent because the child is the one with the disability and doing that. How does it work, or how do you coordinate with multiple caregivers or multiple services coming in for different family members? And how does that work, and what do people need to be aware of in those situations?
Yeah, so I know kind of a common theme here is planning and preparation. We're not a crisis center, so if you call me at 4:30 on a Friday, I might not get to you Monday. So hopefully it's not a crisis, but if you call me at 4 o'clock, I may take your call and we'll figure it out. But I think you need to have certainly a lead person, whether it be another trusted family member, and really making sure you have a good sense of what the situation is like, what people's goals and wishes are. That's important, because I could have some great ideas, but it's like, no, you know what? I was born in this house. I'm going to die in this house. What are we going to do about that? All right. So just as long as I know what their goals and wishes are, what their resources are like, I want to make sure I lead them down the appropriate road. So having a sense of what they have in terms of finances, what they can afford, what their wishes are. And then sometimes it's going to bring them back to reality. And these are your options. You have options. You may not like them all, but these are what, based on what you're telling me, what I'm hearing, these are your options. And hopefully there's good decision makers in place to help finalize those plans. Ideally, if it's not a crisis, we can talk about future planning. I love to play the what if game. What if mom gets sick? What if dad gets sick? What if we can't no longer climb these stairs? Or maybe this house is no longer the best home. What are the options for us? So we love to play that game to avoid a crisis.
Great. And I also know too, just so, and so people are aware, quite often, if somebody is coming out as a home health aide, there's restrictions they're supposed to work under as to what they do and they don't do. And if they're assigned to mom, and they shouldn't also be doing something for dad at that same time, or if it gets found out about it, doesn't get paid for. So there are things to be aware of, and to ask them certain questions about what exactly they can and should be doing, particularly if they're working for an agency and they are not directly hired by your family. So for all three of you, give some thought to what pitfalls have you run into, or mistakes have you seen people make that people should be aware of to avoid that same mistake?
I think, maybe I'll throw one out there that we see occasionally, and Marc just kind of hit on it when he said, I grew up in this house, I live in this house, I'm going to die in this house. Sometimes that's just the wrong decision. Sometimes the home physically is not modifiable, or it's just not economically feasible to make those changes. And sometimes the answer really is that they need to move. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're, having to move to a nursing home or give up their freedom. Sometimes they just need to move to a more modern setting that has some of the features that they need. One of the examples that we run into occasionally is, with someone who needs a ceiling mounted lift system. And there are different types. There are some that actually get their support kind of from the ceiling. There are others that are more freestanding. But sometimes it's just not easy to retrofit one into a home. And if you're getting to the point where you need that level of care in order to assure your mobility, I think then it's a time to say, what am I giving up by staying here? And the mistake, I think, sometimes is that people don't want to consider all the possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to consider the possibilities and realize that there are going to be trade-offs. I'm going to have to give something up to get something else.
Right, great. Anything else that anyone has seen? Mark?
Yeah, I'm gonna, don't assume. That's kind of my takeaway. Don't assume Medicare is gonna cover. Don't assume family's gonna step up and help out. And maybe don't make unreasonable promises, or ask family members, never put me in a nursing home. All right, so I hear that. But sometimes, no one wants to go to a nursing home, but sometimes they need and deserve a different level of care. It may be the home, wherever that is not the best place anymore. So that's kind of my few takeaways.
Nicole?
Yeah, from my perspective on the technology end of things, it's the fear. And I think Mark's right with the don't assume. I think there's this innate fear of technology that, I won't know how to use it. It will impede my life as it is. And, I won't have control over it. But there's so many ways and that if you allow someone to teach you what the technology is and how it can benefit you, I think you're really opening the door for a lot of independence in your home and ways to connect that you didn't have before. And often we get feedback that is, I was so scared of this, but this has been great because I can, talk to my grandchildren across the country, or, I can see my doctor when I'm not feeling well and I don't have to go to, the hospital or the doctor in person. So there's been a lot of great ways that technology can bring joy and independence to your life in a way that you didn't have before, or you did earlier in your life, and that has, escaped you in a way. And if you don't mind, Tracey, there's 2 services that I wanted to mention that I forgot, but won't cost anything. And I think it kind of lends a hand to the prevention piece too. So at the NEAT Center, we have 2 services that would incur no cost to individuals who want to learn more about technology, to just kind of figure out what exists in the world. I think a lot of people don't even know what to ask for. They don't know what exists. So we do a lot of work with AARP Connecticut, and they help fund a lot of webinars for individuals in general, but a lot for individuals who are aging in place, to teach them about the kinds of technologies that exist and how it can be beneficial to their lives and the lives of the people that they love. And so those exist on our website, and they come out, we do several a year. We have a couple coming up actually on smart technology over the next few months, and they exist on our website. And then the other piece is that we actually have a tiny home on wheels. We have just like the show, we have a little tiny home, and it's on wheels. We can bring it to events and conferences and hospitals, so that people can tour this little home that is outfitted with smart technology. And our smart technology specialist discusses, what is all this technology? How does it work? How are they all connected? Can you, what if you can't talk, but you want to use voice activated technology? Are there other things you can do? So there's lots of solutions out there just to learn about what exists and start determining what your needs might be in the future.
Thanks, and thanks for remembering to include that, because the little smart home really is really neat, no pun intended, thing to see. One thing from my own personal experience that I'll share, and it's a bit of prevention, but it's also sort of a thing not to do. Don't wait to do advanced directives, medical proxies, power of attorneys. One thing my mom did after my father passed away when they were in their 60s, right away, my mom made sure I had all of those powers. She didn't need me at that point in time to take care of any of that. But she knew, I mean, any of us, regardless of our age, could have an accident tomorrow. We could become ill, incapacitated, even temporarily in some way. And so she did that early on. And so I've made sure to do the same thing with my daughter, so that, there's no question about that. And there's no scramble for my family. Mark?
So Tracey, I do a talk on planning for the future, planning for the what if. And one of the key takeaways of that presentation is I encourage everyone to develop a summary binder. And I have an example. I don't know if you can see it here with my screen, but I have a summary binder here, 3-inch binder. And I have one of these at my house. I encourage everyone to create it. So in here, I have my will. I have my life insurance policies. I have all my investment funds, my deeds, my key contacts, my attorney, my accountant. So God forbid something happens to me or my spouse, families can turn to this, or we can turn to it and say, hey, I wonder if I meet that $51,000 threshold. I wonder how much money I do have. So when I get new statements, it goes into that book. So it's a quick, handy, one-stop shop for information on your financial health, your legal health that I'm going to encourage you to create and to share with your loved ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will only help if the person who needs the services, even if they're going to be remaining home, can't necessarily be the one to make all of those decisions or participate as actively as maybe they one time could have. So absolutely. So that's what we have for you today. I'll give one more opportunity for questions. Again, Samantha is going to be sending out the contact information for Nicole and Kent and Mark, as well as the link to the YouTube video of the discussion today. So any other questions, comments? All right, well then I'd like to thank Nicole and Mark and Kent today for being our panel, and thank all of you for being with us, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody. Bye.
Take care.